Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time joining us, I want to give you the warmest possible welcome, and I genuinely think that by the end of this video you are going to understand something about ParkJimin's current reach and visibility that you may not have fully appreciated before, something that goes beyond chart positions, streaming numbers, and the kind of commercial metrics we typically use to measure an artist's impact, and into the realm of actual, physical, real-world cultural geography. Because today we are talking about a prize that Jimin has just won, and it is not a trophy you put on a shelf or a certificate you frame for a wall. It is a week of advertising space at one of the most strategically significant locations in the entire world for reaching an international audience. And when I tell you the specific details of where that advertising space is and exactly who passes through it on any given day, I think you are going to understand immediately why this particular achievement, in this particular location, is worth discussing with the seriousness and the genuine excitement that it deserves. Please hit that like button, make sure you are subscribed, and let's dive into every single layer of this story right now. Let us begin with the specific award itself, because understanding exactly what Jimin won is the foundation on which everything else in this story rests. Jimin was officially crowned as the #1 Best Idol Comeback of the first half of 2026 in a poll conducted by Kyoto, one of the most well-known and most widely participated fan-driven polling platforms operating within the K-pop community globally. The poll ran from June 18, 2026 through July 5, 2026, accumulated a total of 142,668 votes across all candidates, and at the conclusion of the voting period, Jimin had secured 42,131 votes, representing 30% of all votes cast, a dominant, clear margin that placed him firmly and undeniably at the top of that ranking. But here is where this particular Kyoto poll becomes genuinely different from most fan voting competitions, and here is where the story begins to get significantly more interesting. The prize for winning first place in this specific poll is not a digital certificate or a social media recognition post or any of the typical, largely symbolic rewards that most online fan polls generate for their winners. The prize is a week of dedicated media advertising at a venue called HIKR Station, located inside Incheon International Airport in South Korea. Now, before we go any further, I want to make sure that everyone watching this fully appreciates exactly what Incheon International Airport is, because I think sometimes when we talk about airports as cultural and commercial venues, the scale and the significance of truly major international transit hubs does not fully land. Incheon International Airport is not simply a large Korean airport. It is consistently ranked among the very best airports in the entire world by virtually every major independent aviation and travel rating system that exists. It has won the world's best airport award from Skytrax, the most widely recognized international airport quality ranking organization, an extraordinary number of times, making it not just one of the largest airports in the world by passenger volume but arguably the single most celebrated and most internationally recognized airport brand on the entire planet. In terms of raw passenger traffic, Incheon serves tens of millions of international passengers every single year, passengers arriving from and departing to destinations across every inhabited continent on Earth, representing travelers from essentially every country in the world, every cultural background, every language, every demographic, every level of engagement with Korean culture and Korean entertainment. And that specific, extraordinary diversity of the passenger base flowing through Incheon International Airport on any given day is exactly what makes the HIKR station advertising placement so specifically and so unusually powerful as a prize. Let us think about this carefully for a moment. When we talk about fan-funded advertising in other prominent global locations, Times Square in New York City, Piccadilly Circus in London, Shibuya Crossing in Tokyo, the sides of major buildings in major world capitals, those locations are genuinely impressive and genuinely significant. But they are fundamentally location-specific. Their audience is, by definition, primarily composed of people who happen to be in that specific city on that specific day. A tourist visiting New York might see Jimin's face on a Times Square billboard, yes. But the vast majority of the people walking through Times Square on any given day are already in New York, they live there, they are visiting there, they have chosen that specific destination for their own reasons entirely unrelated to K-pop or to BTS. The overlay between people in Times Square and people actively exposed to Korean entertainment culture is real but ultimately limited. Incheon International Airport operates according to an entirely different logic, and that is precisely what makes it such a strategically significant advertising venue for an artist whose reach is genuinely global rather than anchored in any single geographic market. The people passing through Incheon are not people who happen to be in Incheon.
They are people in active transit, actively moving between the place they came from and the place they are going to. They are on their way to Seoul. They are passing through on a layover from one international destination to another. They are departing Korea after a visit. They are arriving from business trips, from family travel, from tourism, from international conferences, from every conceivable category of human movement that uses air travel as its mechanism. And because Incheon is a major hub for connections between East Asia, Southeast Asia, North America, Europe, Oceania, and the Middle East, the specific geographic and demographic diversity of the people moving through that airport on any single day is, in a very literal sense, a cross-section of the world's traveling population. Business travelers from the United States and Europe passing through on their way to destinations across Asia. Tourists from Southeast Asia traveling to Japan or Korea. Korean nationals returning home from international assignments. International students. Conference delegates. Families on vacation. All of them, every single day, moving through the same physical space where, for one full week, Jimin's face and Jimin's image will be displayed through the dedicated advertising media of HIKR Station. HIKR Station deserves its own specific introduction, because it is not simply a generic advertising display somewhere in the airport's general corridor. HIKR, which stands for Highlight of Incheon, Korea and is designed to be pronounced like the English word hiker, is a cultural experience zone specifically constructed within the transit area of Incheon International Airport. It was developed with the explicit goal of introducing international visitors to the best of Korean culture, entertainment, food, beauty, and creativity in a curated, high-quality environment specifically designed to make a positive and memorable impression on travelers who may be experiencing Korean culture for the first time, or who are arriving in Korea with an existing enthusiasm for Korean entertainment and want to find a meaningful point of connection right from the moment they land. The space features media walls, digital advertising displays, experiential installations, and branded content specifically selected to represent the most culturally significant and most internationally resonant aspects of contemporary Korean culture. This is not a place where you see random advertisements for generic products. This is a space specifically curated to put the best and most exciting face of Korean culture in front of the most internationally diverse audience available anywhere in the country. And for one full week, that curated space is going to be dominated by Jimin's image and by the story of his comeback. Let us think about the specific timing and the specific framing of this prize within the broader arc of what has been happening with Jimin's career during this period. The poll was designated specifically as the best idol comeback of the first half of 2026, which means that the field of candidates Jimin was competing against included every single K-pop idol across every single group who had made a significant musical return during the first 6 months of this year. This is not a small or easily defined pool. The first half of 2026 has been one of the most activity-rich periods in recent K-pop history, with BTS's full group return from military service generating enormous commercial and cultural attention globally, multiple major solo artists releasing significant new work, and a constant stream of new and established acts making various kinds of comebacks across every tier of the industry. To emerge from that crowded, competitive field as the single most recognized comeback of the entire 6-month period, according to a poll that attracted nearly 143,000 votes from fans participating across the platform, is a genuinely meaningful achievement that tells you something specific about the depth and the consistency of engagement that Jimin's return has generated throughout this period. And that 30% vote share is worth understanding in its proper context. When you have more than 142,000 votes distributed across a competitive field of idol comeback candidates, capturing 30% of all votes cast means that Jimin's total was not simply ahead of the second-place candidate by a few percentage points in a tightly competitive race. It means that nearly 1 in 3 votes cast across the entire poll went specifically to him, a level of concentrated support that, in any competitive multi-candidate voting context, represents a dominant performance rather than a narrow victory. That is the scale of the engagement and the organizational commitment from his fanbase that this specific prize reflects. Now let us connect all of these threads to the specific framing at the heart of this video, because I think it is worth spending some real time on the comparison between this HIKR station placement and the more commonly discussed fan advertising locations.
The reason I introduced this video with the specific contrast to American billboards is not to suggest that Times Square advertising is not valuable or significant, it genuinely is, and fan-funded billboard campaigns in major American cities have produced some genuinely memorable and widely circulated visual moments across the history of K-pop fan culture. The reason I drew that specific contrast is because I think the strategic logic of placing Jimin's image at HIKR station inside Incheon International Airport is actually quite different, and in several specific respects quite superior, to even the most high-profile city center billboard placement that fans could organize anywhere in the world.
Let me explain exactly why.
When a K-pop fan community organizes a Times Square billboard for their favorite artist, the primary intended audience is other fans, particularly international fans traveling to New York who want to see their favorite artist represented in one of the world's most famous visual contexts.
The secondary audience is general Times Square foot traffic, which is enormous but largely indifferent to K-pop in any direct or engaged way. The tertiary audience is people who see the photos of the billboard shared on social media by the fans who were there to see it. These are all meaningful outcomes, but the fundamental reality is that a Times Square billboard primarily functions as a statement to and for a fan community, rather than as genuine exposure to new, unconverted audiences who might not have previously known or cared about the artist being displayed. HIKR station at Incheon operates according to a different model entirely.
Because it is positioned specifically as a cultural showcase for international visitors, and because it exists within the transit flow of an airport serving tens of millions of international passengers per year, the audience encountering Jimin's image at HIKR station during this one-week period includes a genuinely significant proportion of people who are not already ARMY, who have not already converted to K-pop fandom, who are simply travelers moving through a world-class international airport and encountering a world-class presentation of contemporary Korean cultural achievement. For those travelers, the business executives from Europe, the tourists from Southeast Asia, the exchange students from the Americas, the families from the Middle East passing through on a connection, the visual experience of Jimin's image displayed in the context of HIKR station's carefully curated, high-quality cultural showcase platform says something specific and something powerful. It says that this specific person represents something worth highlighting in a space specifically designed to put Korea's best cultural exports in front of the world. I also want to talk about the emotional dimension of this particular moment for ARMY, because beyond all of the strategic and logistical analysis of why HIKR station is a significant advertising venue, there is something genuinely moving about the specific way this prize was earned. This is not a placement purchased by a company as part of a commercial marketing strategy. It is not a result of industry politics or label investment or any of the behind-the-scenes commercial machinery that drives so much of what gets seen and amplified in entertainment contexts. This is the result of fans, real individual people who care about Jimin, who have been following his career and supporting his work for years, who participated in a poll across an 18-day period and cast their votes specifically and deliberately to recognize the comeback that moved them the most among all of the extraordinary K-pop returns of the first half of this year. The 42,131 votes that Jimin received in this poll represent 42,131 individual acts of recognition, each one a small, specific declaration that this particular comeback, this particular artist's return, mattered more to that individual voter than any other option available to them. And the collective weight of those individual acts of recognition has now been translated into something physical, something visible, something that will exist in real space for one full week inside one of the busiest and most internationally diverse transit hubs in the entire world. For ARMY, I think there is something uniquely satisfying about the specific nature of this prize, because it converts fan support into something that reaches well beyond the existing fan community. Most of the ways that fans demonstrate their love for Jimin, streaming his music, watching his music videos, voting in polls, purchasing his albums, attending his concerts, primarily create impact within systems that are already oriented toward and measured by engagement from existing fans. The HIKR station placement is different. It takes the energy and the commitment of fan support and translates it into visibility that reaches genuinely new audiences, people who may walk past that display and feel curious, who may see Jimin's face in a beautiful, professionally presented advertising context and wonder who he is, who may pull out their phone and search his name for the first time. That potential ripple effect, starting from fan votes in a Kyoto poll and ending with genuine new audience discovery at Incheon International Airport, represents one of the more elegant and more organically meaningful chains of causation that I can think of within contemporary K-pop fan culture. And it is worth saying, explicitly, that this specific recognition, Best Idol Comeback of the first half of 2026, arrives at a genuinely significant moment in the broader arc of Jimin's career. The first half of 2026 has been one of the most visible, most critically discussed, and most commercially impactful periods he has ever experienced as a public figure. The Arirang World Tour has taken him from Seoul to Tokyo to Las Vegas to Los Angeles to Busan to Madrid and beyond, with stadium shows selling out across multiple continents and generating the kind of economic and cultural impact that Forbes Spain, WWD, and numerous other mainstream international publications have specifically written about in detail. His partnership with Dior has deepened into something genuinely historic, with multiple high-profile Fashion Week appearances generating sustained international media coverage and industry praise. His fashion influence has been specifically recognized by major publications from the South China Morning Post to Esquire Korea, with professional stylists and directors from Vogue independently choosing to describe their experiences working with him using the same specific word, brilliant, across multiple separate, unrelated contexts. To have all of that accumulated visibility, impact, and industry recognition reflected back through a Kyodo poll awarding him the Best Idol Comeback of the first half of 2026 feels, in its own way, like a small but meaningful confirmation that the broader cultural world is tracking what fans have been watching and celebrating all year long.
Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through.
If this story gave you a new appreciation for the strategic significance of where Jimin's image is going to be displayed for a full week, and for the tens of millions of international travelers who will encounter it, please show some love with a thumbs up. It genuinely helps this channel grow and tells me you want more deep dives into these moments that combine fan culture with real-world cultural impact in genuinely interesting ways. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button right now, because we are going to keep covering every single development in Jimin's extraordinary 2026 as it continues to unfold.
Drop a comment below. Have you ever passed through Incheon International Airport, and how does it feel knowing that Jimin's face is going to be there to greet travelers from around the world for an entire week? I read every single comment, and I genuinely love hearing your thoughts. Take care of yourselves, ARMY. I will see you in the next one.